He entered the shop with an old coat and was pushed out as a nobody, worthless. No one knew that the man was about to buy everything. There was a knock on the door, soft but decisive. "I don't need anything here, because tomorrow I'll keep the key." The music swelled, ending with the sound of the glass door opening.
Sometimes, the biggest label is personality. Label doesn't make a class, a story you shouldn't miss.
New York morning. The weather is cold. The wind blows across the cobblestone streets, carrying the scent of coffee and the sound of car horns mixed with the hustle and bustle. James Miller stands alone on the sidewalk. He wears a faded gray jacket, frayed at the hem. His jeans are not too old, but not expensive either. His light brown sneakers have a few small stains on the heels. In his hand, he holds a paper cup of coffee, still steaming slightly. James is not in a hurry. His eyes follow the flow of people passing by. An anonymous man. No one in the crowd bothers to pay attention. In front of him is a luxury store, the transparent glass front, the gold-plated letters MARCEL Haute Couture, a famous fashion brand, favored by the rich people of New York. James walks forward. The door opened automatically. The air inside was cool and had a distinctive scent, a mix of genuine leather, high-end perfume, and imported oak. The sound of high heels clicking rhythmically. A female employee walked out, wearing a black suit, hair tied up high, sharp makeup. She glanced at James. Her eyes only stopped for less than a second. No smile, no hello. "Dear customer." James nodded slightly, saying nothing. He walked slowly between the racks full of suits, shirts, shiny leather shoes. Each item had a small price tag. But no one needed to look, because people who came here usually didn't ask the price. A group of young customers were trying on clothes. They were dressed stylishly, laughing and chatting. One of them turned around and saw James standing near an ash-gray suit. He whispered something to his friend. The whole group chuckled. Someone pretended to extend his hand to invite James to try on a shirt. Someone covered her mouth and said, "You must have come to the wrong door." The female employee turned back. This time, it was the same male manager. The manager looked older, wearing glasses, with a serious face. "Excuse me, sir, this is the fitting area for customers with appointments. What do you need?" "I'm just looking," James replied softly, his eyes still fixed on the sharply tailored shirt. The manager frowned. "For signature products, the store only serves by appointment and member information." "I understand. Then you can leave this area. We have a no-appointment policy." James looked at him. Not angry, not confused. Just nodded again. "Thank you for the notice." He placed his half-drunk coffee cup back on the nearby marble table. A small drop of coffee fell to the floor. The clerk quickly shouted, calling for someone to clean the floor immediately. James slowly turned around. No one knew his name. No one asked what he needed. In the soft yellow light, the man in the old shirt walked out of the luxury store, as if he had never existed, as if he was not important. But when the glass door closed behind James, something strange happened. He did not walk away immediately. He stopped. He took out his phone, made a call. Only one sentence echoed through the noise of the street. "Cancel the meeting this afternoon. I have a brand I want to buy." After leaving the store, James walked slowly toward the nearby square. He sat down on a stone bench under a tree, where the morning sunlight filtered through the leaves, softly illuminating his shoulders. In front of him, the stream of people was still rushing. No one noticed. No one paid attention. James was silent as if he were part of the background. He opened his phone. The screen displayed Wendy. "Executive Assistant, this is James. I'm listening, sir. Send me the MARCEL brand valuation report. Both the branch and last year's figures. Yes, right away." James hung up. His eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at the shiny gold sign in the distance. In the world of high fashion, everything revolved around the tag. The small fabric tag attached to the back of the collar or printed on the side of the pants. The tag carried a name, and the name carried a prejudice. Those with a label are greeted. Those without a label, like him now, are asked to leave. That story doesn't make James angry. It reminds him of the early days of his career, of the times he was turned down for a loan because he didn't have a nice suit to wear to the bank, of the look the recruiter gave him when he saw the peeling leather on his shoes, and the first time he went for an interview, when they asked, "Can you afford our company's products?" No one knew. No one thought. The ordinary, simple man sitting in the middle of the street was the chairman of the largest technology corporation in the East, our Victory Group. James took the last sip of coffee. It was cold, but his eyes began to warm. He stood up. Step by step, he walked toward the black car parked a few blocks away. On the way, he passed a large billboard hanging high, "Class is a choice." James stopped, looked up, and laughed, silently. The SUV opened the door, and James stepped inside. The driver nodded, but asked no further questions. James simply said, "Headquarters, I want to see the entire MARCEL profile." On the screen in front of him, reports began to appear. MARCEL has 12 branches in major cities. Revenue has been declining for the last 3 quarters. There is internal turmoil in the executive team. James scanned the data line by line. The numbers don't lie, and they were showing that MARCEL, despite its luster, was weakening, not because of the product, but because of the way they treat people. Because class is built on exclusion. James leaned back. His head rested on the chair. His eyes closed. There was no intention of revenge in him. It was just that he couldn't let a brand with that arrogance continue to exist like that. Not when he could turn it into something better. Better for those who were despised like him in the past. Better for those who wanted to dress well, but didn't want to be judged. James opened his eyes. Looking straight at the screen, he said, "Open negotiations. I will buy MARCEL again. But this time, not to wear it, but to change what it represents." The next day, at the MARCEL store in the center, the early autumn wind carried the scent of rotting leaves and a slight chill across the street. A group of employees were standing around the counter. They were chatting softly, smiling as they looked out. "Is that guy from yesterday back?" A red-haired girl chuckled. "The paper coffee guy. He must have gone. That kind of person doesn't have enough money to come back. And the manager was really annoying yesterday. But that's right. A high-end store isn't a place that just anyone can walk into." The manager, Mr. Lane, stood nearby. He glanced out the glass door. His eyes narrowed. "You need to maintain class. People who dress like that usually don't bring any value to the brand." A female customer walked in, designer handbag. The scent of expensive perfume wafted through the air. Immediately, the group's expressions changed. The smile, the warmth, the sweet invitation. James stood across the street. He saw it all, from the half-contemptuous, half-mocking look, to the way their attitudes changed in the blink of an eye. He didn't blame them, because this was a replica of the society he had lived through, a society where clothes determined how people were treated. James slowly turned away. Didn't enter the store, just picked up the phone. Make an appointment with the legal team. We'll start the process of acquiring MARCEL, but I want to keep all the staff. Keep what? Yes. I want them to learn something from within. James hung up. The wind blew his shirt behind him. His eyes were still calm, but in his heart, he had chosen a path no one expected. 3 days later, a sunny afternoon. James returned to the MARCEL store, the same clothes, the same shoes. He pushed the door open and entered. No one recognized him. No one remembered. The red-haired employee was arranging the shoe cabinet. Looking up, she looked him up and down, unable to hide her annoyance. "What do you need?" James smiled slightly. "I want to see the ash-gray suit again, in the right corner." She hesitated. Then she walked over and called the manager. "Mr. Lane." Mr. Lane came out, his eyes full of caution. "You're here again. I have some time, so I wanted to see the shirt from the other day." Lane looked straight at him. "I told you. We only accept customers with appointments and who meet the membership requirements." James nodded. "And what if I intend to buy all the new models this season?" The manager frowned. A flash of confusion crossed his face. "Excuse me, but I don't think these products are suitable for you, because I don't have enough money," James asked, his eyes still calm. "Not really, but this brand isn't built for just anyone to walk in." Silence. The red-haired employee bowed her head slightly to avoid James's gaze. Mr. Lane remained standing straight, as if protecting an invisible wall. James nodded slightly. "I understand." "Then if you don't mind," Lane said. His voice low, no apology, no invitation to return. James turned away. His steps were light, but not hurried. He stood in front of the door, turned back and said briefly, "Thank you. I don't need to buy anything here, because soon I will have the key to this door." Then he left, leaving behind the puzzled eyes of the whole store. The small coffee shop was on the corner. James sat alone. The coffee in front of him had gone cold, but he didn't touch it. The phone lay quietly on the table. The screen lit up. A message came from Assistant Wendy. "MARCEL. Valuation report is ready. Internal documents have been transferred safely." James opened the document folder. Each line appeared. "The store system is operating stably, but revenue is down 12%. The creative team is gradually leaving because the brand direction is too conservative. The main investment fund is looking for a partner to divest." James typed a few lines on the tablet, calculating, hesitating, but very quickly. He pressed the call button. On the other end of the line, the deep voice of his personal lawyer, Mr. Harris, rang out. "I'm listening, sir. Open negotiations with MARCEL's parent fund. Keep it anonymous like last time, yes. But this time, I want to buy it all." Mr. Harris was silent for a few seconds. "The group is going into technology. Do you really want to get into fashion?" James chuckled. "I'm not getting into it. I'll redo it. Okay, I'll handle it. But if the brand collapses, it will affect your reputation." James shook his head slightly. "I didn't buy it for profit. I bought it because of one sentence: we don't serve people like you." Mr. Harris pondered. "I understand. Let me contact you and keep the whole process confidential." The call ended. James sat for a few more minutes, looking out at the street, passers-by. No one knew that the man sitting there silently just made a decision that could change the fate of an entire brand. A week later, in a closed conference room on the top floor of Manhattan's largest glass building, no sign, no press, No one knew who the real owner of the meeting was. Only a small group of Marcel's legal representatives were waiting. They had come to sign the transfer agreement. The buyer was a fund company, an unfamiliar name, but financially strong. No one mentioned the name James Miller. Everything was quiet, just as James wanted. After the signing, James did not attend the party. He just walked alone down Fifth Avenue. The wind was gentle. The glass doors of the fashion stores reflected his silhouette, a simple gray shirt, old brown shoes, the familiar cup of coffee. He stopped in front of the MARCEL store. The same gold sign glittered. The same expensive clothes behind the glass, inside. The staff was still adjusting the mannequin's shirt. No one looked up. James didn't come in. He just stood there, smiling. Not a triumphant smile, but the smile of someone who had just laid the first brick for change. A change that was not noisy, not ostentatious, but deep enough to touch the roots. No one took James's picture that day. There were no headlines in the newspaper. Just an ordinary man, keeping his simplicity, keeping his silence, but holding in his hands the entire future of the brand that had refused to serve him. A new conference room, white walls, no banners, no words related to the MARCEL brand. There was only a long, dark wooden table, 12 chairs placed symmetrically, and a completely quiet atmosphere. James sat at the head of the table, still in the same gray jacket, still in the same paper coffee cup placed in front of him. On the other side of the table was the old management team of MARCEL, the faces that had run the place, who had decided who was welcomed and who was pushed out just because of their appearance. They did not know who the man sitting in front of them was. They only knew that he was the representative of the new organization that acquired MARCEL. Mr. Lane, the manager of the central branch, was also invited. When he entered, he looked at James, then he paused. A flash of unease passed through his eyes. James stood up. He did not introduce himself. Just say calmly, "I won't change everything overnight. MARCEL won't be wiped out, but from today it will live differently." A member of the old management asked, "What do you mean?" "I will keep the stores, keep most of the staff, but MARCEL's target customers are the upper class." If the change is too sudden, James interrupted. That's what caused MARCEL to collapse. You serve people who have enough money, but you can't keep their hearts. Mr. Lane opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something. James looked straight at him. No blame, no resentment. Just asked one question. "Do you remember me, Mr.?" Lane was silent. His eyes darted around, confused. James nodded. "It's okay. You don't need to remember. Remember from tomorrow. MARCEL will serve even those you didn't greet before." The room was dead silent. Only the sound of the air conditioner whirring could be heard. James ended the meeting with a single line. "Let's make this brand worth it. Not for the label, but for how it treats people." He stood up, walked out of the logoless room, and left behind a group of people who were beginning to understand that a new wind was blowing. 2 weeks after the meeting, the MARCEL store downtown was still open, but something was different. The gilded sign was gone. In its place was a minimalist wooden board, engraved with small letters MARCEL. For all to enter, no press, no grand opening ceremony, just a strange silence, and the changes started with the smallest things. Inside, there were no more disdainful looks. Employees were required to smile at every customer, no matter what they were wearing, what shoes they were wearing, or what they were holding. The price of shirts was cut in half, but the fabric was still pure Italian cotton. The suits were still elegant. The only difference was, people could now ask for prices without being looked at with unpleasant eyes. On the first day, the line of people passing by was surprised. Some people went in to try it out of curiosity. Some people came back a second time just to see if they were being asked to leave. The red-haired employee who had once turned James down now sat at the cashier. She greeted customers gently, a little awkwardly, no longer saying we're not serving, but instead, "How can I help you?" James stood at the back of the store. No one noticed. No one knew. He just observed. Saw a student buying his first shirt for an interview. Saw a motorbike taxi driver trying on a pair of leather shoes because he had never dared to come here before. Saw an elderly woman smiling when she realized the price of the shirt was the same as at a market, but the quality was much better. Marcel had changed, and James didn't need to step onto the stage to be applauded. He just needed to see someone smiling as they left the door. Prices are different. A light afternoon rain. The glass door is covered with mist. A middle-aged man walks into the MARCEL store. He wears a wrinkled shirt, old pants. He holds a wrinkled paper bag containing a few books. The red-haired employee walks over. She bows slightly. "Can I help you?" The man hesitates. Do you sell clothes here that don't need to be tried on?" "Yes, you can choose. We'll help you exchange them if they don't fit." He walks slowly around the store, stands in front of a charcoal blue jacket, looks at the price, then stops. "Really, just this much, yes. Sir, I've been standing outside here for years, never dared to come in." The clerk didn't know what to say, just smiled. Her heart felt like it was tightening. James stood behind the bookshelf, didn't say anything, didn't move forward, just looked and smiled slightly. A few young customers also came in to try on clothes. They weren't rich, they weren't stylish, but everyone was invited equally. Marcel was still the same, but a new version. Don't use price to choose worthy people. Use your heart to treat them like humans. James left the store. It was still raining lightly. He walked away, leaving behind the warm yellow light of the store. A customer looked at him and whispered to the clerk, "Who is that person?" "Ah, just a regular customer who stopped by to observe. He looks familiar, but no one has seen him buy anything. Only James knew. You didn't buy anything because you paid for it all." A Monday morning. The MARCEL store in the center has just opened. The staff are cleaning the windows, rearranging the shelves. The air is fresh. Soft background music is playing. A soft piano. Mr. Lane, the old manager, returns to the store after more than a month of absence. In his hand is a file. His face is tense. He walks in, intending to meet the new manager, but before he can say anything, his eyes meet James. James is standing at a corner of the counter, adjusting a row of shirts, still wearing a gray jacket, still with a calm expression, no different from the first time they met. Mr. Lane pauses, silent, as if time has frozen. "Is you?" James nods slightly. No need to smile, no need to confirm. His presence right now is the answer. Mr. Lane swallowed. His eyes scanned the store. The same items, but the prices had changed. The same old employees were still working, but the attitudes had changed. "I don't know. I don't think." "It's okay," James said, his voice low. "There are lessons you can only understand when you're on the other side of the line of sight." Mr. Lane put the file on the counter. I've come to return my management file. I think I'm no longer relevant." James looked at him. No blame, no harsh words, just said softly, "Sometimes, people who have lost their way are the best guides, if they're willing to start over." There was silence for a few seconds. Then James turned away. No hold back, no stop. Mr. Lane stood there, watching the figure of the man he had once chased out the door. Now, he is the one who owns everything around him. The reunion, no introduction needed, because the past is enough to remind. That afternoon, the MARCEL store was not crowded. The soft sunlight spread across the shiny tile floor. The scent of new fabric mixed with the scent of tea from the small corner made the space feel intimate. The red-haired employee, who had looked at James with disdain, was folding the last shirts of the day. She suddenly saw him walk in. It was still him. Nothing had changed. The same old jacket. The same gentle demeanor as if nothing had ever happened. She quietly walked over. No tablet, no greeting, no product introduction. She stood opposite James, then bowed deeply. "I'm sorry." Her voice was as small as a breeze. No one else heard. But James did. He nodded slightly. "Thank you. There's no lesson heavier than silence. There's no forgiveness greater than peace." James handed her a small card. She opened it. Inside was only a handwritten line. "You used to choose to look at me from the outside in, but I want you to learn to look at people from the inside out." She held the card. Her eyes filled with tears. For the first time, she felt sorry for someone she used to despise. Few months later, MARCEL reappeared in the media. Not because of the sudden revenue, not because of the billion-dollar advertising campaign, but because they were the first luxury fashion chain to declare that value is not in the brand, but in the service. Viral videos recorded the moment when homeless people were invited by MARCEL staff to try on clothes, without being asked questions, without being judged. The single mother picked out a suit for her first interview. The poor college student was given a pair of shoes because everyone deserves to walk with dignity. James did not speak. He did not show up. He left only one line on his new website. "If a shirt makes you feel small, it is not worthy of you." That day, many people passed by MARCEL, not to buy things, but to know. There is a place where no one is asked about their income before being smiled at. No one is judged because they do not have a shiny label, and no one knows. The person who made it all, just a man wearing an old coat, who likes to drink cold coffee, and believes that the label is really about character,